Alrighty, all that cutting and grinding from the last episode has led us here. I have this thing on my workbench. Here's the plate. It's just bent, hot rolled steel plate, 135 thick. And I also threw some primer on the cross member. I got tired of it rusting. Just a couple of 5/8 or 16 millimeter holes to mount the rack. You can get at the nuts from behind by reaching through the under here. And also needed this notch for the input shaft on the rack. So this all worked out pretty good. I've just got it tacked in place here. Just a lot of cutting and fitting and grinding, but the basic shape is fairly simple. And what we're going to do now is let's just put the rack on here and see how it looks. All right, so here we got the rack on here. You can kind of see how it fits there. Looks pretty good. The only area I'm kind of worried about is where these U-bolts come in that hold the lower control arm on. The extended threads may rub on the bellows, the boot for the tie rod end on this side. If that happens, I can just space the rack out some, just put some spacers behind the bolts and it can move out as much as it needs to, but I'm going to try it like this. Rack, it's like it was made for the thing. The lines are all kind of out of the way and it fits really good in here. Do have to talk about travel. In my other video, you remember I measured the stock Squarebody drag link style steering and it had a throw of about 6.7 inches. This rack has a travel of about 5.81, 5 13/16. So that's about 7/8 of an inch total loss, 7/16 per side. That's unfortunate. It's a loss of about 15% of throw. So it means that my short bed may now have the turning radius of a long bed, but we'll see. Except for that, I'm pretty happy with everything about how this is fit in here. After this video, we're going to jump to another one where I've actually got the thing temporarily in place on the truck and we can get an idea of how the engine fits around it and the steering linkage and everything. So again, this was fairly easy to do, just with some thought, and these racks, of course, are from a 2001-ish Dakota two-wheel drive. The four-wheel drives are different. And, you know, there's hundreds of them out there. Gotta be millions. So let's put this down for now and we're going to tack it onto the truck and see what happens. Well, here she is, mostly mocked up with my crusty old stock lower control arms. One thing, you can see how close this area is, and with the boot on it, you can see that basically it touches that U-bolt. So I'm going to have to be doing some trimming on there in order to make that work and not gash the boot. Word to your mother. But everything fits. You see we clear the big huge stock control arm here, which is a problem with some of the other aftermarket control rack and pinion setups. The rack fits good. We got good clearance here. And it's pretty much a given that we're going to need to put the tie rod on the bottom end of the steering spindle here, whereas the stock one goes in from the top, just because bump steer. I've got this mocked up here. It's with a rod end and hacked together, but it looks pretty good. This is about ride height, simulated, the way I've got the frame, the cross member shimmed up, and where I got the spindle sitting. So it looks pretty good. The other good thing here is that because the rack is fairly far back, you see the angle on the tie rod there is good. That'll preserve our Ackerman. And, well, it's looking pretty good at this point. This lip here used to come up to about here, full height. So I've trimmed this back. It's all painted now, but I just ground and smoothed it back because of the issue with the the bellows boot that goes on here. It's very close to this area. And again, I may have to shim this out so that the boot doesn't rub through. But my plan was smooth this up and put it together and see what happens when it's actually all installed. Alright, so here we are with the test fit on the truck. And it actually is pretty good. It's not hitting anything. We're well clear of the balancer. The engine doesn't look like I'll have to rework much, if anything, to do with the lines on the rack or anything. So I rigged up this Fabricated steering column link, and just to see what the angles would be like with a 2-joint system. And they're actually, both U-joints are at about 30 degrees. They're spec'd to go up to 35. And it turns smoothly like this. I don't think this will work though, because well, you can imagine the #1 tube here of the header is probably going to interfere with this. So most likely we'll have to go to a 3-joint system and pull this forward and have the joint somewhere around there. We'll see when the thing is finally permanently installed. It's just held in place with a couple of bolts right now, and I still have to finish weld the plate there that holds the rack, but looks good.